Getting ready. Here we go. You hear people moving by. Alrighty. Getting close. Yep. First section will be Skaldic Poetry. Medieval Literature is the heading. Written by the editors of Encyclopedia Brittanica. See article History. Skaldic Poetry, Skaldic, also spelled Skaldic, Skaldic, Oral Court Poetry. See, so that was just spoken word, with or without an instrument, as previously said, more than likely without an instrument. Oral court poetry originating in Norway, but developed chiefly by Icelandic poets, Skalds from the 9th to 13th century. Skaldic poetry was contemporary with Eddaic poetry, but differed from it in meter, diction, and style. Eddaic poetry is anonymous, simple, and terse, often taking the form of an objective dramatic dialogue. Down. Ooh, okay. Icelandic literature, Skaldic verse. Going to get into that. Skalds were identified by name. Their poems were descriptive and subjective. Their meters were strictly symbolic instead of free and variable. And their language was ornamented with heti and kennings. Heti names are uncompounded poetic nouns, fanciful art words rather than everyday terms, brand or sword, or steed or horse. Kennings are metaphorical circumlocutions such as sword, liquid, or blood, or wave, horse, or ship. Interesting. Sometimes kennings are extremely indirect. For example, the blue land of Haki, a sea king, refers not to land but to the sea, requires a knowledge of Norse mythology to be understood. Of the 100 Skaldic verse forms, Drokved, court meter, which uses a syllable count and a regular pattern of alliteration, internal rhyme, and assonance, was most popular. The formal subjects of the Skalds were shield poems, descriptives of mythological engravings on shields, praise of kings, epitaphs, and genealogies. But as you can see, the genealogical connection goes into the bards and the Philly, as I was stating before, with Taliesin, right, and the Welsh ancestry connection. So as I see it, all of these are connected. There were also less formal occasional poems, dream songs, magic curses, lampoons, flittings, or poems of abuse. And although forbidden by law, many love songs, because they so often praised current feats of the kings, the poems have high historical value, limited only by the abstruse language. The greatest of the Skalds was Egil Skallagrimsson. Okay, we're going to click on him. That's where you have Egil's saga. Okay, going down. Egil Skallagrimsson, also spelled Skallagrimsson, born 910, Borg, Iceland, died 990, Mosfell, one of the greatest of the Icelandic skaldic poets, whose adventurous life and verses are preserved in Egil's Saga, c. 1220, translated in the Sagas of Icelanders, attributed to Snorri Sturluson. Okay, so Snorri Sturluson comes into question by many people, but we'll just go with that. The saga portrays Egil as having a dual nature derived from his mixed descent from fair, extroverted Vikings and dark, taciturn Sami Lapps. He was headstrong, vengeful, and greedy for gold, but also a loyal friend, a shy lover, and a devoted father. So he seems to, like they said, he had a dual nature. One was shy and one was greedy. As a young man, he killed the son of King Erikr Bloodaxe, Eric I, and placed a curse upon the king, which he inscribed on a pole in magic runes, later shipwrecked off the coast of Northumbria, England. He fell into Erikr's hands, 948, but saved his own life by composing in a single night the long praise poem, Awful Lawson, Head Ransom. So he paid the ransom by writing this long verse for the king, praising Eric in a unique end-rhymed meter. Another long praise poem, Lay of Erenbjorn, is also attributed to him. Shortly after the death of his two sons, Egil locked himself in his enclosed bed and refused food. His daughter coaxed him into writing a poem, so he composed, 961, the deeply personal lament, Son of Torek, Loss of Sons, or Revenge Denied. The poem is also a family portrait in which he recalls the deaths of his parents as well. In it, the desire for revenge, and hatred of Odin, overwhelms him. That's interesting. Now, was this a Christian king? I don't know. Egil resumed his normal life. He lived to be old and blind and to write a lament on his senility. That's all. Egil Skallagrimsson spent much time in Norway, or who wrote in praise of Norwegian kings, as did Sigvatar, counselor and court poet of Olaf II of Norway. Although the complexity of his skaldic poetry has limited its modern readership, the orally transmitted poem, 10th century. Icelandic poets who, like Egil Skallagrimsson, spent much time in Norway, who wrote in praise of Norwegian kings, as did Sigvatar, counselor. Okay, it's going on over this again because I clicked on something else. Although the complexity of the skaldic poetry has limited its modern readership, as I've already said that. Okay, moving down. Iceland's adoption of Christianity in 1000 opened the way for powerful influences from Western Europe. So there you go. Missionaries taught Icelanders the Latin alphabet. So everything is Latinized. Let's see. One of the first missionaries taught the Icelanders the Latin alphabet, and they soon began to study in the great schools of Europe. One of the first was Islifer, who, after being educated and ordained a priest, was consecrated bishop. See, and this is where I question what happened to the original writings because they were changed, but they were originally oral in tradition, right? Anyway, that's all I'm doing on that.